Beads are a human cultural universal trait. Human societies and cultures around the world through time have all developed and used beads. Chukma, Sahochifoet, Brad Lieb.
Chukma, Sahochifoet, LaDonna Brown, and today we're going to talk about the history of beads.
Since time immemorial. Some of the oldest beads found in the Chickasaw homeland are Middle Archaic stone, tubular, and effigy beads. The Middle Archaic period was 6,000 to 5,000 years ago. And this was a time when people lived as relatively mobile hunter-gatherers.
One thing that we began to understand about the beads is that they are created for more than just ornamentation. And those particular effigy beads may have been created to show a specialization in our social organization. And the social organization may be the understanding and the organization of clans. And the reason we say that is because the animals that are being created for these effigy beads are some clan animals that we are familiar with. It's very interesting to begin to see how beads played a very important part of our society, how they played a very important part of ceremony.
We do not fully understand how some of the Middle Archaic stone effigy beads were made. There is evidence that a type of lathe or turning device was used. Preforms and blanks for unfinished beads have been found at workshops or specialist sites that have rotary striations indicative of being turned on a lathe, which is a technology that we were not aware existed in Middle Archaic times. The level of polish used on hard metamorphic rocks indicates a skill level that we don't know of anyone possessing today. Glass trade beads were first introduced to Chickasaw ancestors with the Hernando de Soto expedition in 1540 and 1541. We have record of the traders and native people's names for some of these types of glass beads, these being robin's eggs, later known as big blues. And this is just about the largest of the glass trade beads. And they were special because they were made out of a type of milk glass that when you hold it up to the light of the sun, you can see a fire inside of them.
The big blues are very, very interesting to me. And when I first saw Big Blue, I thought it was a very beautiful bead. But then to understand that my ancestors were, trading for those types of beads, they're culturally significant, they're historically significant, and they're still significant to our society today.
Over here we have what are known as rattlesnake beads. And the reason for that name is because they are black beads that have a series of anastomosing stripes that have been applied to each bead individually, and they are either yellow or white stripes. This type of bead is found in the Chickasaw Nation in the late 1600s, but by the early 1700s, they seem to no longer have been made or brought to the nation. So they represent one of the early types of historic glass trade beads. These red beads are known as cornaline de Aleppo, and they are characterized by a translucent green heart that you can see light through that is covered over by a brick red surface layer that actually contains gold in its recipe, so they were expensive to make. And they are also an early type found in some of the earliest French and British contact sites in the 1600s.
I think knowing the importance that our ancestors placed upon these beads is very important to us, and it helps us make a connection to our ancestors to reinforce our cultural identity today. We may today, as modern people, as we're making our particular ornamentation with our beads, I think it's still just as important whenever our beaders are actually creating items, because they're thinking about their families and they're thinking about their community and they're thinking about how important the design that they're creating, how that reinforces their cultural identity, how it's going to reinforce cultural identity for the person who's wearing it, and helps us to take it into the future.
These beads are important today because they were important and meaningful to our ancestors. These beads are a tangible link to our ancestors' lives centuries ago. And we have a responsibility to preserve them, protect them, learn from them, and share that knowledge with Chickasaws today.